We often think of stealth games as being about patience, about staying hidden, waiting for the perfect moment. But these games prove that not being seen is just the starting point. It's really about a deeper, more manipulative form of control. So we're gonna look at some games that really get that right. Campaigns that aren't just about hiding in the shadows, but about turning them into a weapon.
You spend a lot of time looking at cones of vision and volume. It completely strips away the grit of infiltration and leaves you with pure geometry. You have the ricochet gadgets, the blackjack, standard heist gear essentially, but the simulation aesthetic. With that, you're forced to look at the environment strictly as a puzzle. Every wall and low cover block is perfectly placed to exploit sound, like angling the bugle gadget off a pillar in a server room to bounce sound right behind a heavy guard, letting you waltz past his peripheral. The whole loop revolves around managing those noise radii. You're never really hiding, not in the traditional sense anyway. You're just moving dead zones around. When you get the hang of bouncing sounds, breaking line of sight becomes almost mathematical. You clear a floor without ever touching anyone. It totally removes the panic of getting caught.
With Deus Ex Mankind Divided, you're not strictly forced in stealth, which is probably why it's so good. It dangles it as the main option. You got Adam Jensen, and he can turn invisible, punch through walls, you know, the usual cyberpunk stuff. But all that tech, it shifts the focus away from just being another creep in the shadows. The level design is the main appeal though. Prague's a place that feels like it's been designed to be hacked, both literally and figuratively. Vents, rooftops, sewers, it's less about following a preset route and more about finding your own way to ghost a section, like a vent that you can slip into, bypassing guards entirely and dropping straight into the parking garage. Easy in, easy out. Thing is, the augments eventually turn you into a predator. The cloaking is useful and all, but the upgraded smart vision, seeing enemy patrol patterns through walls, feels almost like cheating. If you stack that with silent takedowns, you can clear an entire building and they have no clue what's going on. It's just about knowing where everyone is and making them dance to your tune. A real power fantasy in the shadows. Moving on to something completely different, we have Aragami. Running out of shadow essence right in the middle of a well-lit courtyard is a uniquely stressful flavor of panic. In Aragami, you don't really walk anywhere. You just point at a dark patch and materialize, completely scrambling your sense of distance. Throwing down your own shadows to break enemy patrol loops feels incredibly messy, but it works. Pulling guys into the void when they wander too close. Aiming a shadow leap underneath a main bridge allows you to bypass a whole chasm. It's barely even a route, but the engine lets it happen. Everything revolves around managing that meter. Once you're dry in the light, you're just waiting to get hit. Then you've got something completely different like Phantom Doctrine. Spending 20 minutes staring at a corkboard before firing a single shot isn't the usual espionage experience, but this game leans hard into the bureaucracy of stealth. The real infiltration happens before anyone even deploys. Disguising agents completely flips the script. You all of a sudden just walk through restricted zones in broad daylight. Setting up a sniper on a fire escape provides total overwatch, making you practically invisible. It's a completely cold, methodical way to clear a map. The overwatch mechanics mean you get to dictate the crossfire before alarms go off. When it finally comes time to breach, it's less about improvising and more about executing a grocery list of violence. On the opposite end of the spectrum is Afia's blink ability in Shadow Gambit, which is honestly ridiculous in the best way imaginable. Instead of waiting around for some pirate inquisitor to turn his head, you can just freeze time and slice straight across the map. Shadow Gambit piles on these awkward elevations across its Caribbean islands, so a lot of your playtime is just untangling spaghetti code of enemy sightlines. Moving to the apex of a sloped roof helps skip a patrol happening right below. With the help of your crew, you can then take out 3 guards all at once. It takes all the guesswork out of an ambush, which is very satisfying. You just drop the markers, trigger the action, and watch an entire outpost fold instantly. But sometimes, stealth is about the sheer tension. In Shadow Tactics, you spend an unreasonable amount of time sitting in bushes in Edo period Japan. It demands a frankly exhausting level of patience since overlapping vision cones are everywhere. Finding the blind spots is a real headache until you start abusing Yuki's little flute and needle trap combo. You effectively lure guards into a ditch on command. A perfectly wedged trap under a stationary ox cart can make a wandering guard
guard quietly disappear without leaving a trace. It's all about calculating the exact travel distance of a distraction while praying nobody sees your footprints in the snow. One bad step and the whole camp loses their minds. Then there's the pure sensory control of Mark of the Ninja. Seeing a literal visual ring expand every time your character breathes takes so much anxiety out of sneaking. Everything is locked to a 2D plane, giving you this godlike situational awareness. But it gets really fun when you start psychologically ruining the guards, hanging from a ceiling and dropping a terrified enemy's body near his squad mates so they start shooting wildly in the dark is pure pandemonium. Navigating the grapples feels incredibly fluid too. Shattering a light bulb over a guard dog allows you to slip by unnoticed. It turns evasion into this weird game of mental warfare.
You're a real shithole. Proud of your work.
Styx takes a different approach. Getting spotted as a goblin is pretty much an instant game over. It makes up for how incredibly fragile you are by letting you vomit up these expendable clones to do all the dirty work. The verticality is pretty intense, so you're constantly scrambling across rafters and hoping you don't miss a jump. In the Koranga market, you can easily cause a diversion by using a clone to lure guards away, and you just stroll past them. Easiest distraction ever. Throwing away a copy of yourself completely changes how you gauge risk. And for pure environmental manipulation, few do it better than Splinter Cell Chaos Theory. Plunging a room into pitch black with the OCP pistol attachment never gets old. It isn't just about hiding in a corner, it's about actively dismantling the environment until the guards are blind and deaf. Snatching a mercenary out of the dark for a quick interrogation yields these great little bits of intel. Crouching in the dark behind a very distinctive paper wall in a Japanese bathhouse and slicing it lets you pull in a guard without a sound. The noise meter is hypersensitive anyway, so you constantly inch around, checking your movement speed. Having that kind of intimate control over the dark is an incredibly satisfying experience.
Good thing the butler's out for the night.
Next, we move to Thief 2, where you never thought you'd care this much about interior flooring. Walking on tiles sounds like a bomb going off. Managing the light gem at the bottom of the screen becomes a preoccupation, but it's really the moss arrows that hold the whole run together. The architecture is enormous and expansive, forcing you to lean around every single corner. In the basement, there's a metal floor grate, and firing moss arrows on it deadens the sound entirely, letting you sprint across undetected. Combat is such a rickety disaster that if you get cornered, you're usually just reloading. Bypassing the slow crouch routine with a trick shot feels like dodging a bullet. But if it's pure primal fear you're after, nothing beats Alien Isolation. That motion tracker beep is easily the most stressful sound in gaming. You're really afraid to pull the thing out at times because the alien can hear it. Isolation forces you into these claustrophobic station corridors where hiding under a desk and holding your breath is the only real gameplay loop. Memorizing patterns is useless with the dynamic AI, so you're always just scraping by. Cutting power to the air purifiers in the psychiatric wing cranks up the ambient noise just enough to mask the tracker's beep. That gives you a tiny, desperate buffer to figure out where the hell you're going. Crafting EMPs takes time, something you almost never have. Finally, for the ultimate social control, there's Hitman 3. Being the most dangerous guy in the room while dressed as a bartender is a weirdly hilarious dynamic. You completely ditch shadows for social stealth. The maps are giant, intimidating clockwork puzzles, and you spend your time just looking for the loose threads in the security routines. It's all about exploiting really dumb AI behaviors, like breaking a guard's pathing by simply balancing a coin on a bathroom sink, giving you just enough time to slip through a maintenance door unnoticed. Manipulating a whole VIP area without anyone knowing you were there is pure social engineering. So whether it's manipulating shadows, exploiting enemy AI, or simply becoming a ghost in sight plain sight, these games show us that stealth isn't about being passive. It's about taking the reins, twisting the rules, and achieving a kind of player mastery that few other genres can even touch. If you've got another game that puts this kind of power in your hands, drop it in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. Take care.